Hello, sorcerers. Today we've got a topic that is near and dear to my heart, a topic that is very pertinent and relevant in a lot of people's lives right now in the TCG space. Something that I happened upon a video the other day. Uh, this one right here by Surgical Ninja. They play some sorcery, they play some other games. They kind of play literally everything, it seems like, or maybe they just more collect. Either way, they're into Cyberpunk. And they're like, no local scene? A lot of people aren't playing, even though gajillions of dollars went into that Kickstarter. Um, they're like, well, you need to start one. And it's kind of a tough love sell. And I get a lot of comments from people on my own videos for sorcery content that are like this one. Um, Love not having game stores who sell it and anyone to play cards with. And all I have to say to that, well, is a lot, it turns out. I have a lot to say. And on the one hand, I can totally understand if you are in this situation right now. The problem is that what situation are you going to be in 3 months, in 6 months, in 1 year? Are you still going to be on YouTube complaining that you don't have a thing that other people have? And I don't want this to sound too dismissive. Some people have genuine concerns, issues, can only offer so much time, maybe working 2 jobs like I am, trying to make ends meet. I get that. And yet, like, whatever you can offer, rather than just complaints on the web, would be more useful, because the only way to build a community is to take steps, and that can be daunting. And so I wanted to make a video that, rather than me complaining about people complaining, would be more helpful, because I myself find that I am trying to build a community right now. And of course, there have been moments where it's been like, people aren't paying attention, or no one cares, or these fleeting thoughts that kind of imagine life and the timeline as a river, and these thoughts float on down that river like a leaf, and then they disappear. I don't hold on to them. I don't try to grab onto them and seize onto this feeling of rejection that comes from that. So there'll be a little bit of, counselory speak in here, and I don't intend to be psychoanalyzing anybody, but I do have demographics for my channel. It turns out if you play sorcery, you're probably an older man, living somewhere in the world. I have a broad base. There's a lot of people who play sorcery all over the place who come to this channel, but you're probably an older man. And so also, what it probably means is that the demographics say that you are also probably neurodivergent. Maybe that's a shocker to you, but maybe it's not. Most people who play these kind of card games, who get really hyper focused or fixated on these type of games and wind up building community and having success, or being like on the pro scene or whatever, have some kind of neurodivergence to them that allows them to hyper fixate. But also, I'd say that most neurodivergences are a superpower. I won't hear otherwise from it, because I think that if you're on autism spectrum, or if you have ADHD or whatever, there are a lot of challenges in life that you have to face, and you wind up overcoming them and actually building a lot of skills that can be useful in building a community. So, first step is to know thyself. Number one, let's flash it on the screen in the editing process. I tried to do a much more complicated edit of this video, and it's just not working. One of the things about knowing thyself is, for me, knowing that I am not a talented video editor. I sometimes enjoy it, but I don't have the time to dedicate to that yet. I will need to hire somebody at some point. And so let's use this opportunity. Please like and subscribe. If I get to 1,000 subscribers, that will be really helpful, because then I will be able to maybe hire an editor. I'll be able to hire somebody who can cut out the ums and the uhs and the whatevers. We'll be able to use some more flashy graphics. But I can't do that until I get to 1,000 subscribers because YouTube does not allow me to monetize before then. And if you value this content, please hit those buttons. It means a lot to me. And let's continue. Sally forth. Okay. Know thyself. What does that even mean? Sounds like we're going to have a Tim Robbins or Tony Robbins, sorry, not Tim Robinson. That would be hilarious. But Tony Robbins conversation here. And I'm not trying to like sell you anything. What I am trying to do is say that we need a game plan. If you're like going onto the soccer pitch and you're playing the biggest game of your life, you better start thinking about that game before you ever even walk there. And so this isn't the same kind of stakes as that. But if you're trying to build the Sorcery community in your own local game shop and you don't know a lot of people who play and you're sort of like the lone wanderer in the wilderness, then you got to be prepared. You don't go into the wilderness without preparation. You don't go into the soccer pitch without preparation. And you should not go into this conversation of trying to get other people involved in the game unprepared. And so how do you do that? Well, we can brainstorm in the comments below. Maybe you have ideas, but what I would say is you need decks to play. You need simplified decks, precon decks. You need a deck that might appeal to a new player. For me, I have my Squeakers deck and I have my 29 Wolf Moon deck right now. And to me, those decks appeal to the beginner player. They have cutesy animals, they have mechanics that repeat ad nauseum, and so there won't be a lot of divergence in the deck game plan. Like if I presented a new player with Imposter, they would lose their mind. They would literally shrivel into like a Call of Cthulhu-esque husk on the field. And so I don't want to do that to somebody who's trying to get into the game. The other thing is be cordial. Be aware of your audience. You're talking to someone who doesn't know anything, so make it very apparent that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to even play with cards face up. That you're not invested in winning so much as you are helping them understand the game. You can let them know that this isn't a sweaty moment, that you're not trying to just quote unquote snipe them. Like I keep looking at this sniper goldfish comment on the video. We are just wanting to have a good time. And in those beginner decks, if you don't have the official precons, that's fine. But put some funny cards in there, cards that you love, cards about sorcery that you absolutely adore. Is it the polar bears? Is it the crabs that only walk sideways? Is it, for me, it's like Rolling Boulder. I love Rolling Boulder because it shows the game in a light to players who are new of like, hey, here's a relic. It rolls across the board. It's using the 3-dimensional space and it just sits there. Now you can use it and you can also punch me in the face with it, which is kind of a fun thing to do. You know, the bird that steals artifacts could be fun for other players, right? It shows this sort of interactivity. Give them an experience. Set the stage through your deck building to give the new player an experience of something wild and fantastical. The Salmon of Knowledge is one of my favorite cards, so I can't wait to have players use that and go fishing with their skeleton tokens or whatever, to try and like get these skeletons to raise a salmon out of the water and draw some cards. These are fun little moments. For Jude, it was like having the heir, the apparent heir, to Sir Galahad after Sir Galahad died on the battlefield, able to like immediately top deck that and draw Sir Galahad, his power, his life force out onto the battlefield and take up the sword. That story moment was powerful for Jude. It caused him to literally buy a box of cards and get into this game full force. So you don't know exactly what'll connect with people, but you have a good idea, and that good idea starts with what connects with you, what resonated with you when you first started to play. This is sort of your visualization exercise moment. This is where you get to look back, think, how did I begin? What caught me? And then try to set those traps on the field for newer players to fall into. And instead of blowing up or having Ponzi sticks on the bottom, then we have love and a hilarious card game at the bottom of the pit. And that's what they fall into. Next, your local game store doesn't carry sorcery. This one can be tricky. You'll have new players. I've had new players ask me at the game store as me and my friends are playing, um, where can I buy product? Well, you have to know these kind of things off the top of your head. Um, Team Covenant is the place to send everybody right now. I would prefer if my shop would have sorcery at the moment, and I'm working on that, is kind of how I phrase it to new people. Um, the shop owner is interested, and we're just not there yet. But until that point, you can get everything at MSRP through Team Covenant. And this is just the distributor that Sorcery chooses to use. Let's accept reality for what it is versus what we want it to be at the moment. We'll work on that other want to be front as we go. But for right now, a new player trying to get in, Team Covenant, solid shipping in the United States. This is United States rules, and I am sorry to my international community. I do not have the information available on some of these topics. How game stores work in your area, where do you get product from? I don't know that stuff. I'm sorry. I apologize. I do. But for the United States, know these things off the top of your head. Be able to recommend somebody to a website. Recommend somebody not only that, but like when you get those cards, be like, hey, I'm going to come to this shop every Saturday at this time for the foreseeable future. So you will have somebody that you can come into the store and play with. Also, how comfortable are you talking with, and this is part of know thyself as well, how comfortable are you talking with your local game store owner about, hey, this is something I'm interested in. What do you think works? I would love to bring things in. What do you suggest? You can ask them kind of questions, maybe get a time set up. Like my local game store is doing a grand reopening, and I was lucky enough that they approached me to be like, hey, do you want to teach sorcery to others? And I think the reason they did that though is because I've set a very clear foundation and a consistency with I go to the shop at these times every weekend. We're always playing sorcery. I'm teaching new people how to play. I'm offering to teach people how to play. So I'm putting myself out there every weekend. In fact, I go out there thinking of myself as an agent of change, as a person who is willing to do some work that is not convenient for me, right? Like I'm there with friends, but also we were going to go out to eat like the last time we went out and played. And there was a new person who came up to the table and they had been watching our games. And I think that my friends were ready to go. And yet and they understood this, and I was like, hey, can we get a quick game in, you and me, this new player who's interested in the game? I don't want to leave that person just like sitting there, uh, not being able to play this cool game. And so sometimes you have to put yourself beyond like where you might feel comfortable. Like, would I have liked to go out to eat in that moment with friends? Okay, sure. But you know what? We played Squeakers versus 29 Wolf Moon. They got to grapple shot or like use a meat hook like in their wolf pack to like pull my squeakers into a pile of wolfy goodness and devour them. And I think they had a good time. And I can't guarantee if I'll see them again, but they left the table feeling happy, and I was able to donate some time to them. So it goes a long way, is all I'm saying. If you are the lone wanderer in the wilderness, you have to be willing to do some things that are a little above and beyond. If that means finding some cards that you can give away, some bulk, if it means like making some pre-constructed decks that you could literally give away those. It doesn't all have to be just giveaways too, but because time is valuable. If you're willing to sit there at a table with a little sign up says, hey, want to learn sorcery, and you're the only person in that game store, totally fine. Now, if you're not in that situation, and you're trying to figure out how do I get my friends to play sorcery, there's not a lot that can be said that will kind of change the dynamic. I don't know what the dynamic of your friendship is. However, I would assume that they would be open to playing at least once. You get those precons out, be like, hey, next weekend or the weekend after, I really want to learn sorcery. I want to bring my stuff. It's very similar if you're in a magic scene or something. If you're like, hey, I would like to cube or I'd like to draft this weekend. What do you guys think about that? Make it an event. Bring some snacks. You invite people over to your house if that's how things go. If you go to an LGS regularly, make some kind of to do, some presentation about it. It's going to be an event. Hey, we play sorcery. Whoever the winner is, we get a free pack of magic cards or whatever. Like it doesn't have to be like all sorcery all the time, gung ho. But I would imagine that game players are smart. We know that anyone who plays a collectible card game has like a knack for like learning new things, learning skills, and sometimes Magic players can be very entrenched. I've heard this from other sorcery folks, but I think there's always room to try something new once. And that may be the momentum, that may be the seed that gets planted that 10 weeks down the road, when they're starting to feel a little iffy about Magic, they might look back on this sorcery game that y'all played and think, oh, let's actually take another look at that. Maybe I'll watch a sorcery video, see what's up with that. So you may not get, converted followers, some like cult like members right away, but I guarantee that with consistency, you will make way more progress than commenting on the internet of bitching about like not having game stores and people to play with. It just gets to me sometimes. The amount of time people spend complaining and feeling bad. I just feel bad for them. And like, if you just do stuff, then stuff happens. For example, just a short story. I used to work with teens in a wilderness therapy place. Um, and so I remember, and I was a trip leader at that time. I would make sure that everybody had their medicines, that they were taken care of, that we would go on these expeditions, and like we would, you know, just spend a lot of time to make sure that the teens had an okay time. But the goal was never to be like, we're going to serve you hand and foot. We were not like servants. In fact, the goal was to help the teens start to confront challenges. And they sat down on the trail. And they were like, I don't want to go any further. Well, I knew because I was the trip lead and I had been keeping track of things like weather. I knew that there was a storm, and you could literally smell the change in the air like you can before a storm comes. Now, it's not my job to make sure these kids didn't get wet. It's not my job. My perspective was there's a thing called natural consequences. We were 1 mile away from camp. Camp is where people can get dry, and we're about to get soaked. And I'm okay doing that. See, I can call the bluff. Be like, I sat down with him and be like, all right, well, we're going to get real wet. And guess what? We did. And then as soon as we got wet, all of a sudden this kid had energy, had movement, had motivation, wanted to change. And so when I come from a place of like frustration with people hollering on the internet, complaining about stuff, I come from a place of like, you have within you the capability to do something better than this, and you're not choosing to use it. And so to me, the person who hollers on the internet about love not having game stores who sell it and anyone to play cards with, I believe in them. And what I believe in them also means that I believe that they're wasting their time. Like, you have the capability within you. You're the transformer who has the matrix inside, and you get to lead the charge. You just have to put forth the effort. Last story I'll share, Jewel, famous singer from the 90s, um, beautiful voice, and yet I bring it up because at that time I was an aspiring writer. I was in creative writing program in college, and I had already published a short story. I had all these things going for me. I was writing poetry. I was going to poetry groups, doing poetry readings, stuff like that. And I saw that Jewel released a poetry book, and I was miffed. I was like really frustrated with it. It was so stupid that I would be frustrated, but I was in my early 20s and I felt a little bit victimy, right? I was like, I put forth all this work and this effort, and I didn't expect to be like a bestseller or anything like that. That was never like my uh, realistic goal, but to feel a real lack of success in a lot of ways, a lot of rejections. When you put stuff out there to get published, boy, you're going to get a lot of rejections. It's part of the deal. You will get hundreds of rejections. And so I had already gone through a lot of that. And it frustrated me to no end that Jewel became the #1 best-selling poetry book of all time. Her book of poetry, we'll post a picture of it here, is the number one seller. You know what? She deserved it. And I can only say that with age and wisdom. Yes, she had a leg up. Yes, she probably wouldn't have been the #1 seller had she not released this amazing album. But there was a time in her life where she was living in a van in Alaska and she hadn't released the #1 album yet. And what the lesson is that throughout her life, she was just consistent. And so that's the highlight, the last part of this kind of discussion. If you want sorcery to grow in your community, you have to be willing to be the consistent factor at your shop. You are the one who has to show up. You can't demand that others show up. You can't expect that other people will show up if you're not willing to put in that work. And sometimes, even if it's just you and one other person, or you and a literal sign that's like, hey, I need somebody to play sorcery with me, you have to be the consistent factor. And the lesson I took from Jules' poetry book being the #1 bestseller in age and hindsight was you just have to put yourself out there. And it's very similar to YouTube videos. A lot of people allow themselves to not make YouTube videos because they think the production needs to be super high. But the lesson that every successful YouTuber always shares, and this is like across the board, is like, don't care what your equipment is. Don't care how good your editing skills are or are not, in my case. You have to put stuff out. And so that's literally the lesson I used today. I was like, I'm going to make a video about this topic. It's important. I think I can get it across. I had started to write scripts, so I kind of rehearsed some of this already. But also, I know that my gift, know thyself, is to be more freeform, to be more, in sessions when I'm working with people, or when I used to work for a newspaper and I'd interview people, like playing in the moment, playing in the sandbox, is way more my gift with my ADHD. That's my neurodivergent superpower, is to be sort of a presenter, be on stage, be authentic. So I hope that this video has been somewhat motivating for you. I know I didn't release the secret knowledge of like how do you start, because really the secret knowledge is you need to get up and do it, and that you have gifts that are unique to you. I don't know what your sense of humor is. I don't know who your friends are. I don't know what your local game store situation is, but you have access to all of that. Like, if you want sorcery to happen in your community, I hope this at least motivates you to ask questions if you're worried or concerned or have thoughts in the comments below. But I hope it also you start asking and talking with people in person at your local game store. And if you're more of an online person, like if that's where you get a lot of your socialization from, because some people have thriving online lives. I am old and I don't. Like, you'll see me post 1 or 2 times on Twitter and I just lose my mind after reading, just the nonsense. And so I'm not that guy. People use Discord all the time. I'm just, yeah, occasionally, yeah, sure, I can Discord it up. It is not my preferred community. I much prefer in person. So know thyself, know what your gifts are, know what your tolerances are, know where you're best at. If you're an online person and you have Discord capability and tolerance, to be honest, for online communication, which I have very little of, except in my YouTube comments, I actually love you guys because I've started to know you over time. And it's usually pertinent to whatever topic I'm bringing up, so I have a little bit of control there, rather than just being a traveling fish in a sea of Discordites. Yeah. Anyway, that's another topic for another day to explore. Maybe Discord fans can tell me why I'm wrong. But know thyself. There's a lot of different options. It doesn't have to be just in person. It could be online as well. The goal is, though, to get out of the rut. Because that's what these repeated patterns of not doing things, that's what they are. They're ruts. They're literally the rut that the tire gets stuck in on the car, and then we just spin and spin and spin and spin, and mud flies out, and we get deeper and deeper and deeper, and we just don't move. and we don't go anywhere. So sometimes something that you are comfortable with, like it could be comfortable to lay in a nice dirt hole. It could be. Or it could be a grave. You have to decide. Sorcerer,